So let's talk about Will Levis, who by any measure had a forgettable season at Kentucky. He's declared for the draft. He's coming out. In September, I talked to teams that had him, loved him and Anthony Richardson more than anyone else in this draft class. And I had a conversation last week with someone in the league that said, how many Bryce Youngs do you see in the NFL? 0.
Yeah.
How many Will Levises do you see in the NFL? A lot. And that just starts with the body type, right? The physical appearance, the arm strength. He moves pretty well when he's healthy. So I'll ask you a tough question first, and then you can go into what you feel about Will Levis in general. Let's say you have the 15th pick. Your team won 8 games last year, and you have a veteran like Jared Goff, for example, for another year or two. Are you taking Will Levis, or are you taking Anthony Richardson?
Ooh, I'm going to take Will Levis. I like Will Levis.
All right, give me the spiel.
I think, there's a comparisons out there of the Josh Allens of the world. I think he's a better athlete, but when you see, and I haven't seen him throw live, but just watch it on tape. And then I remember way back in the day, I was at Matthew Stafford's workout, and the ball just came humming off of his hand. And I think this kid's going to have that same type of velocity. But he had no help around him. I mean, he played with a toe. I mean, he had every body part hurt this year. I can't remember what game it was, but they showed his finger on his throwing hand pointed out to the side. He popped it back in, came back in play. So the kid's tough. You just have to really delve into why did you take a step back? Was it because it was the new offensive coordinator who they ended up firing after the season? Or was it because of lack of talent around you? Even I watched the Tennessee game, and he had, I believe, 2 or 3 interceptions that game. And what he does is, like, the one interception was a deflection off the receiver's hands. The other one, he puts the ball in place for a receiver to make plays, but he just doesn't have any receivers to go make those plays. Where in the NFL, you're going to have someone that can go up and in contested situation win some of those 50-50 balls, and he didn't have that this year. Does he have growing to do? Yeah. Does he make some poor decision? Yeah. Did he look as good as he did last year? No, he didn't. But those are the things you're really going to get into an interview with him and ask him why. And you want to hear what are they excuses, or what is his reasoning why he didn't play as well as he did last year. And last year there were some holes in him too, and everybody thought that he would take a huge jump up. The other thing that was interesting, talking to some people, is his accuracy good enough? And that was the same question that they had on Josh Allen when he came out. But since Josh Allen became, I don't know, and I'm going to ask your opinion this, is accuracy coachable, or is it just a natural instinct that you have or you don't have?
It feels like Josh Allen is the exception. He's not the rule. Because typically when you see kids come out who struggle with accuracy, they don't magically get fixed. And I think, a lot of it, and you would know better than I would, Josh Allen was asked to do everything at Wyoming. And as Pete likes to say, he was playing with bouncers and bartenders. None of those kids were getting drafted. And he had to do heavy lifting. Pete was the original member of the Josh Allen fan club. So I think Josh Allen is an interesting case because he is so different. And some of that probably has to do with Sean McDermott. Some of that probably has to do with Brian Daboll and being in the right system. And by the way, he went to Buffalo. He didn't go to a team that won 1 game the last 5 years. So it wasn't like the culture was a complete and utter mess when he arrived. And I think all those things are important. Debo just put up on the screen, if you're watching on YouTube, I had him going to the Colts, who until recently were a very stable organization. And you feel like maybe that could be a landing spot. They obviously have a history of cultivating these young quarterbacks, but I don't know, man. I feel much more comfortable with Bryce Young's accuracy not changing as opposed to Will Levis suddenly, figuring it out. But to your point, who was blocking for him in Kentucky? Nobody. Who was he throwing to? Nobody. Was he healthy? No. So those are the things that you have to sort through when you're going through this process.
And you got to remember, Josh Allen wasn't Josh Allen that we see today his first 2 years in the league.
Absolutely.
Either.
That's right. And it finally clicked. And I think that's what. Is that something that you sort of, as a GM, you're like, okay, it happened there. We can, our coaching, we can figure out how to make that happen here with this player who checks 8 boxes, but the 2 other boxes we have questions about?
Yeah, well, from the personnel side of it, you're going to go into these draft meetings and you're going to talk about all the strengths and weaknesses. And then when you bring your coaching staff in, you're going to ask them the same things. But The scouts don't have to coach this guy. The quarterback coach, the offensive coordinator have to coach this guy. So they have to get around this kid as much as they can during this pre-draft process. And they're going to have to tell you, hey, I've been around this kid. I've watched him work out. We've worked with him in a private workout. I know I can get this kid ready to go. And I think that he can be the franchise quarterback that we need here.
Have you ever drafted a quarterback that the coach or the OC or the QB coach wasn't crazy about, but you thought it was in the best interest of the team?
No, most of the time I would only make a decision if we were all on the same page. Now I made mistakes, and that's my responsibility. But usually we try to get everybody on the same page.
That makes sense.